Good evening, everybody. I hope you're enjoying your Saturday. And thanks for tuning in on this stream at IR Esports. The weekends for any motorsport enthusiast is always packed with some sort of racing or entertainment. It feels nigh impossible to log on to YouTube or any of your favorite sports streaming services and not find either a race going on of some sort or some sort of a pre-race build-up being prepared. Now, it just so happens that over the course of the past decade, the popularity of virtual sim racing has spiked in its magnitude to basically exhilarating level. There's just something about the simplicity yet the utter complexity of jumping into your own accessible sim rig at home and diving straight into a qualifying session in the deep end of competitive online racing. This is honestly where the action really lies on off-race weekends as well in the motorsport community. That's the beauty of modern computer technology. The racing is virtual, feels unreal, and yet the realism does prevail. IR Esports has been actively involved in developing and running the Indian eRacing Championship for quite a few years now, and sports a high performance esports team as well. Now it's time to rev those engines and get it up a gear as we venture overseas. IR Esports is looking to grow and harness the racing talent in the Middle East, and the Discord server is slowly growing. If you're racing in the Middle East or you're interested in joining the server, feel free to reach us on our social media pages, which, by the way, is linked in the description of this video, and we can integrate you into these races in no time at all. We hope to grow this community rapidly over time, and once we have many participants lined up and eager to show their racing talent, IR Esports can start running championships and competitive races in the future. For the time being, the effective winner over the next few streams will get an NFT created and developed by IR Esports. Today is an exhibition race to get the ball rolling. It's a bit of a casual racing challenge to get those engines running. We are at the iconic and legendary and also unsurprisingly popular Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, nestled in the Ardennes forest in Belgium. It's a 7-kilometer long racetrack which snakes its way through a variety of elevation changes and houses one of motor racing's most famous corner sequences, the Eau Rouge and Radion complex. 36 meters of verticality in a matter of 2 seconds. I would definitely want some downforce for such a monster. Luckily today we are running open-wheel Formula 4 spec cars which have plenty of wing to support the demands of this racetrack. The car of our choice today is the Tatus FA01 race car. It is basically a Formula 4 spec, slightly older model of course, but this is a basic stock car that is included in Assetto Corsa. Assetto Corsa is the simulator which we will be using for today's stream and for today's race. The Formula 4 record holder is Rafael Camara. He actually put out that lap time in the 2022 Italian F4 Championship. This happened just about a week ago actually. It's a 2-minute 22.522. Let's see what our competitors online can do today in this stream. And I think we've just about started off with quali. Halfway through actually, it's about a 15-minute quali. We're at the 7.5-minute mark right now. Let's just wait for these drivers to put out a few more laps on the board, see what they can do, whether they can even challenge. Certainly can hope challenge that lap time. Let's see what they can do from their sim rigs at home. So we've got Faisal who is in the pits. I don't know if anybody else is on track yet because they haven't showed up on the leaderboard apart from obviously some of these drivers who we can see on stream right now. That's Bilzi on his outlap. Rahman Abdul is on a flying lap as well. He's put out a 2-minute 25.749, looking to improve on that surely as he tops off over on the top of that hill at Radion, making his way down the Camel Straight. Let's see what he can do, if he can gain any time to the Lecombe sector, the Lecombe corners, which is the next sequence of corners that comes up after this heavy braking zone over here. Let's ride on board so we can see exactly where he's braking as he gets heavy on the brakes there, turns in slowly. You've got to trail brake that car, use the mechanical capabilities of the car, these slow speed sections, as he go back on power through that right-hander. Make your way through Brussels hairpin. It's a slow off cambered section. You've got to be extremely careful. You can't afford to have a heavy lead foot on your right side, otherwise you're going to spin out that car. Making your way through no name corner, it's also I think recently has been called the Jackie X corner in tribute to Jackie X. As you make your way down through Puhan, now this is a high downforce corner for an F4 car that's going at this speed. It doesn't really need that much of downforce. Whatever downforce the car does have can support it as you go flat out through there. Rahman gets ready to brake now through the next couple of corners. These are the Fania curves. Got to be extremely careful here not to get on the inside, to get on the grass or the gravel. It's surely going to spin you out. He takes that beautifully with a lot of space left to that gravel as you go through the next couple of corners. This is the campus corner, turn number 15, quite straightforward. Then you got to maximize your exit here on turn 16. That is the Stavilo corner. All the speed that you carry out of here is going to help you down this very long straight. It's basically the back straight for the circuit. Not really the back straight, because the main straight is exactly parallel to this almost. It's just separated by a chicane. As you go through this fast Blanchemont sectors, these two corners, it's just a double left-hander called Blanchemont. Basically flat out in this car, nothing too special over there. Get ready to brake around the 150-meter board. Heavy on the brakes, make sure you don't lock it up. That's precisely what he does as he makes his way through the chicane. You've got to be extremely careful. A lot of camber changes there. If you get too throttle happy, you are definitely going to spin your car out. Doesn't seem to have improved on his previous lap. It's still a 2 minute 25.7. Right now, Faisal is firmly planted in first place. Not sure what his lap time is, but it's definitely going to be up there. And if he's put that out on his out lap or in one of his earlier laps in the session, you know for a fact he's going to improve on that. There we go, 2 minute 25.0 and counting. I'm pretty sure this is going to be faster. This looks more like an outlap, to be honest. Let's maybe ride on board with one of the other drivers who are out there trying to put out their hot lap. Massive lock up there from Pilsy. No idea what happened over there. It's probably just too much brake bias in the front. You've got to be extremely careful with the way you use the brakes on such cars, because obviously they don't have ABS. So if you take too much from the front tires, if you slam on the brake and continue to turn as you do so, you're going to oversaturate the tire. You see that happening again on that car. The easiest way to fix this is obviously the trail brake, but if that's a bit too technical, you can also move the brake bias back. But when drivers do that, you have a risk of spinning your car out and oversteering when you get on the brakes too quickly. That's when actually trail braking becomes even more difficult in the latter part of the corner as opposed to when you first enter it. I think that was again Bilsy there at the bottom of the hill, at the bottom of the Urush complex, just getting up to grips with the car. Looks like right now we only have 3 times on the board, so it's quite difficult to judge who's actually going to win this. But Anwar Gibran is about 4 seconds off the leader right now, so surely going to be a lot more time coming out of him. Seems to have gone a bit wide there, gotten a bit of an advantage as you get some more speed down the main straight. Either way, he is starting his next flying lap. Let's see what he can do. Going through the Lasso's hairpins, you've got going through the first corner, the hairpin. You've got to be extremely careful. Make sure you don't lock up, like I just said. And once again, get a good exit down there. You've got to maximize all the speed you can. Given how wide this circuit is, it's not at all like a street circuit. It's not about being mindful of the space you have. It's more about maximizing the space that you've got to play with. It's really a question of how far you dare to go on the outside of the corner, so that you don't invalidate your lap. And that's the trick to Spa, to being fast in Spa. You're gonna have to risk it. You're gonna have to trust your car in that it won't understeer at the exit of the corner. The more speed you carry, the better you can get your lap times. Zanwar makes his way through the Lecombe section once again down into the Brussels hairpin. Let's see where he breaks. quite a good braking zone over there. Got to hug the inside curb, then gradually move outwards. Most of the time, especially for if you're new to sim racing and you're interested in driving in a sim, you can see the best way to kind of get up to speed on some of these tracks that you might not know is to just go on the dark patches, just go on the rubbered end section of the track, and that basically shows you the ideal line to take in most of these corners. That's something that's really cool with modern day sims. If you're interested in picking one up, is that they have a lot of these graphical advantages that help you understand what's happening. It's a combination of the visual cues of what's going on screen, listening to the engine to know when you have to rev, when you have to upshift or downshift for that matter, and also ultimately it's about what you feel in your wheel. Sim racing is best enjoyed when you have a wheel, something that can give you force feedback. It gives you a feedback of what the tires are doing, what sort of slip the tires have. So once you have that haptic element as well into your sim rig, that's when you really start enjoying the feel. And that's what ultimately you want to look at when you get into sim racing. If you can invest a bit in a racing wheel, it's going to definitely pay you dividends in lap time. It's going to help you enjoy the sim a lot more. So these are some of the things you can look out for on the stream. If you're new and watching, this is IR Esports. We do have a lot of sim racing going on this channel. Stay tuned if you want to watch more. And if you don't only want to watch, if you want to race, feel free to check us out on social media. Check out the links in the description. It gives you a lot more information on how you can be a part of this. We got more drivers on track now. That's Brendan Anthony doing his lap, flying through the last part of this lap. Goes through the second part of Blanchimont. Let's see when he gets ready to start his flying lap. So he's already in the middle of the track. So that was not Blanchimont. My bad. That was the Bohan section. Again, a very high speed, very fast left-hander. Really got to trust the aero that's working on your car. He seemed to have done that pretty well through this lap. Let's see what he can put on board. Remember, I think 225 is the lap time to beat right now. 225.0 if Pfizer has still not improved his lap until now. So let's see what Brendan can do. It's already 2 minute, about 2 minute 15 as he enters the chicane. Lot of lockup over there. It looks like all four tires locked up that instant. Getting on throttle on the exit. I don't think that's going to be 224, but it's going to be quite close. It is a 226.7. That puts Brendan in P3, just ahead of Anwar. So now he is Anwar's been relegated to the bottom of this grid. We still have a few cars that haven't put lap times on the leaderboard just yet. Bilzy is still getting up to grips to get a lap on board. We've got Arbacor as well, trying his putting out his attempt to get a lap on board. But I don't think any of these drivers are going to put on a lap because we are already into overtime. So anyone who hasn't put a lap yet cannot, and whoever's on their flying lap will need to complete that and return to the pits. So yeah, quite an interesting qualifying session. We've only got a few cars on the grid, but you can see each one having their own set of technicalities, each one having their own style, and I think this is going to play out to quite an interesting set of races. So if I didn't already mention, we have two races today evening. The first race is going to be a 10-minute sprint, and then the second race is also a 10-minute race, but that is a reverse grid, which means that the finishing order from race one is going to be reversed. It's going to be flipped, and that's going to be your starting order for the second race. So right now we're just going to have to wait for the race event to execute in the sim. Left for the race to begin, because that's basically the buffer time the sim gives for everybody to either change their setup, grab a drink of water, and get back onto the racetrack. Obviously, I don't think anybody's changing their setup. This is a fixed setup race today, so there's not much to play in that regards. It's going to be pure skill and basically pure trust on your vehicle, what it can the capabilities of your car as you go into the first turn. Yeah, we've got a tiny grid here, a big racetrack, a lot to play out for. Let's see how this turns out. Brilliant liveries, of course, designed and developed by the IR Esports graphics team. Big shout out to them. Looks really good. We're hoping this can one day evolve into a bigger series. We need more. If you're really interested in getting involved in this community, join the Discord, especially from the Middle East region. It'll be great to have you on the Discord server. We're hoping to run championships in the future. A great chance for you to be involved in this. A great chance for these liveries uh, be on a much more well-packed grid. As of now, we've got 5 cars ready as we wait for the starting sequence to begin. There we go, waiting for all 5 lights to come up. The lights go out, 6 lights in this case. Lights are about to go out. There we go, lights are out. We are under green flag conditions. Everyone getting a decent start. That looks like P5 has gotten a big jump on everybody else. Already found himself into P3, dives into La Source. The car outside locks up. Anwar at the back gets hit and knocked out as well. But it looks like everyone's kind of maintained their momentum. If we don't have any damage on these cars, I think this grid is again going to slowly snake their way back into a tighter compact grid. Hopefully, in a lapse time. Remember the DR. There is no DRS in this track. No DRS for these cars, but the slipstream is mighty powerful down the straight. So if you can get onto that slipstream train, it's basically going to drag you. It's basically just going to drag you into that chain, and then you're going to have 6 cars battling it out by the end of the race. Right now, we've got a battle for the lead. Arbakar making his way into the front of the pack, overtaking Rahman right at the end of that braking zone, at the end of the Camel Straight as they make their way down into Brussels. Let's see what Rahman can do. Both these cards are the same, they're blue, so it's going to be a little confusing if they have a lot of shuffles. But right now it looks like that gap is slowly starting to build up. It's already a 1.3 second gap nearly between the first and second place drivers. That's now 1.5 seconds, 1.6, and climbing. Brandon a solid 1.6 seconds behind P2 as well. So it looks like this gap is slowly starting to form, and then there are bigger gaps as we go further down the grid. Top three making their way quite cleanly through the Fanya curves. So you can see that gap to P4. Right now, I think the battle that we will have on our hands is P2 and P3. So let's follow these 2 cars. Brendan in this blue and yellow car chasing down Rahman in the blue car up front. That gap's only 0.7 seconds right now. So Brendan can get a pretty good run out of the chicane. We might potentially see an overtaking maneuver down the Camel Straight next time by. Right now, he's just going to have to focus, get those tires up temp. It's going to take about a lap to get those tires in the right window. Remember, these sessions kind of carry forward from before, and you do have a lot of grip from the rubber that's been laid out. Doesn't look like enough rubber's been laid out though. Looking at the number of lockups we see from the top 3 drivers right now, you can see the smoke all the way up from P1 down till P3 right now, and it looks like this battle is picking up once again. You see a lot of smoke coming out of there. It just seems like everybody's heavy on the brakes. But yeah, it just as I said, it takes a couple of laps to get those temps up, but once they do, the cars really do start shining in their own style. Yep, we have an overtaking maneuver almost in the bag. No one's going to be courageous enough to make a maneuver at the bottom of the hill. Oro's is probably one of the tightest sections to do that maneuver. But if you get a good run up off of Radion, you can potentially use that slipstream to your advantage. I don't think Brendan's going to do it this time by he's still a bit too far behind. But if he can slowly chop this gap down, he will surely have a chance in a few laps time. Being a 10-minute race, it's roughly going to be about 4 to 5 laps for this race. We are on lap 2, so we've got 3 laps left on the lap board. Let's see what these drivers can do in this limited time. Definitely is a scenic track. It's quite difficult to drive this without getting distracted by all the beautiful greenery that's been scattered around this track. Of course, it's basically a racetrack that's been built into a forest, and it's an iconic classic one at that. It's been around for a very long time. It's certainly a driver favorite. I'm quite sure it's a fan favorite as well for many of you out there. Um, Undoubtedly one of the most popular tracks, one of the most well-known tracks in motorsport, and also one of the longest tracks, in fact, in the F1 calendar. And in the length of that entire track, Brendan has chopped down that gap. Look at the amount of time he's made on Rahman up in front. He's going for the move on the outside into the bus stop chicane. Of course, Rahman has the inside, which means he has the better line into it, but not the better line out of it. You are on the more bumpy side on the exit. There is contact that was inevitable, but surprisingly, both cars continuing. Neither of them losing any time on each other, but definitely losing time to the leaders. I think this battle is definitely going to go on for the rest of this race. We've got the two other cars way down behind, and we have Bilsey, who's nowhere to be seen. So it looks like P6 is way out of the picture right now. And I'm starting to think that's probably just a it's a graphical element right now because they're still locking up with 2 laps into the race. So I'm quite sure that's not pure locking of all 4 tires. It's almost impossible for that to be happening at this point in the race. So that's probably just a nice little graphical uh, visual element for you to enjoy in these races, I would suppose. Something that's been built into the same Minnesota Corsa. But yeah, I don't think it's really affecting any of these drivers. They seem to be chugging on as the clock ticks down. We're at the 4 minute mark, around the 4 minute mark. So it's going to be about another couple of laps in this race this time by. Arbakar clearly out in front now. That's 12 seconds. That's the gap he's built on the other drivers on the grid. And he's just enjoying himself, having fun over there. Remember, he is way out in front, but he's gonna have to start from the back of the grid for the next race, the next 10-minute sprint, which will happen right after this one. Rahman going. So Rahman's going way off at Puan, losing another place right now. So he's down into 5th right now, and he goes straight into the wall. Okay, no, that's a ping issue. So that's just a little glitch that sometimes happens, especially if you don't have a very stable connection to online servers. So if you're new to sim racing, this is also an element in sim racing, is that you need to have decent internet, so that you have really good internet connection, especially good connection to the server you're in. Otherwise, you will be glitching all over the place. So the way the sim actually calculates this is mathematical positions. As we see another position swap coincidentally happening into the Blanchimont section right now. That's Brandon on Anwar. Again, both cars looking exactly the same. Brandon still behind Anwar, and then we've got 2 cars right behind them. So we've got P2 to P5 all stacked up together. This is the battle for P2 and potentially the last spot in the podium. Cars all over the place. So that looked like Faisal had a heavy lockup into that corner. Rahman going back. Now Rahman's dropped once again. So in all that shuffling, it looks like most of these drivers have maintained their position. There we go. That's Rahman way out back in that blue car. I think he's the one who had a severe lockup, overshot that chicane. Both of these drivers, Anwar and Brandon, missing that completely, going wide at the exit of Lassos, and that's giving Faisal an opportunity now. That's already given Faisal an opportunity. He's taken one spot on Brandon, lining up Anwar now for the pass, but surely Brandon's going to have the best advantage here. He's the one that's at the tail end of the DRS train, the best place you can be. The car in the middle, of course, does have DRS, but he's going to make a maneuver, and it's always good to be in P3 in such a situation. When you have 3 cars battling it out, if you are at the back, the chances are very high that you're going to be the one who wins in that battle, because the 2 drivers in front are inevitably going to battle it out and lose time on each other. There we go. So that's already one place made by Anwar. He's made one place on Brandon. Now he's just going to tackle Faisal. This is turning out to be a riveting battle with just 1 minute, 1.5 minutes left. It's going to be 2 laps, including this one. Heavy lockup again into Brussels, and none of the other cars locked up. So yeah, perhaps really is a lockup at this point. Very nearly pinning it into the wall is Anwar as he goes through no-name corner. He's lost a bit of time on Faisal. It's about a second now to Faisal, but Brandon is only a 10th behind him. Is he going to make a pass into the inside of Puan? He does, but then he overshoots his Is Anwar going to have the switchback? No, he does not have the switchback. He continues to stick on the outside, somehow makes that momentum work with him as they make their way through the Fania curves once again. Getting a little twitchy over there. You don't want to take too much curb into the Fania curves as the car in front goes wide. That is Anwar going a bit wide. Brendan having to again get heavy on the brakes to avoid collision, once again locking up his tires. So this is where we're going to see another move potentially, not through Blanchimont, but certainly into the chicane, into the bus stop chicane. See how much time Faisal has gained on P3 and P4. That's what happens. That's what you got to do. You've got to capitalize on your competitors battling with each other to make up time on them so that you have a bit of buffer in the case of any unfortunate event. Let's hope for Faisal's case he doesn't have any unfortunate incident on the final lap of the race. There we go. Brendan made a move now. He's still holding it out in front. Anwar right behind him. And there's collision, both drivers colliding with each other, and it looks like the one who was worse off of there was Brandon. In fact, it was Anwar and Brandon coming together. Anwar switching over to the left side, Brandon colliding on the right. And that's DNF for Rahman. He is out of this race. Looks like the car completely got totaled. There's your race leader, Arbakar, almost 27 seconds, literally an entire pit stop and more ahead of P2. So that's the advantage he's developed in this race. Surely he's gonna have the same pace in the second race if he can just get through traffic. He's probably gonna win that one as well. For now, he is on the final lap, as you can see on screen. But all the battles are not yet over. More battles going on at the back. Another collision, that is Arbakar, the leader once again. Did he collide with a back marker? I think that was Bilsey who collided with at the exit of Puan, but I don't think he'll really be worried about that because he's well on road to victory. Bilsey looks like he's retiring his car as well, or is going very slowly indeed. But yeah, I don't think any more battles are going to be happening in this race. Looks like everybody's spread out quite a bit to just relax and finish off this race as we gear up for race number 2. There we have it. The race leader going through Blanchimont one last time, getting ready to finish off this race. Take a take a quick take a quick 2-minute break as we start off race number 2. Remember, it is a reverse grid. Arbakar is going to be way out at the back right now. It looks like P6. Once everybody else gets back on grid, he's going to be P6. And followed by Faisal. Looks like Anwar, Brandon, and Bilsey to wrap up this race. Rahman has got a DNF, so that means there's a chance he's either going to start in the front or he's going to start at the back, depending on what the sim does. Not quite sure how the classification works for reverse grid. If you don't complete the race, Faisal is far from it's not far from home for Faisal as he spins off on the chicane, but it looks like he's going to be retaining P2 for this race. Anwar coming up behind him, about 3.9 seconds behind him to take P3, and P4 Brandon going all over the place at the exit. That's not Brandon, I think that's again Bilsey. Brandon is coming through to finish up the race as well, doing a bit of weaving over there. But yeah, that was your classification. Quite exciting for a 5-car race, I would say. I hope race 2 is just as fun. Not quite sure what's happened to Rahman, whether he's disconnected or if he will be joining us for the second race. We're gonna have to wait and see. lights on just about right now, waiting for them to go out as we get underway. There we go. Everybody launching off reasonably well. Looks like the last place driver, whoever that is, has not moved an inch. It looks like everybody else has got a decent start. 5 cars through into last source. Cars all over the place already. 1 car spinning at the tail end of the grid. But it looks like everyone out in front, those 3 drivers out in front, have gotten decent starts. So that's Arbakor, followed by Anwar and Faisal. And then you've got Brendan. So Brendan's the one who spawned at last source. Looks like these 3 drivers are the ones who are going to be battling it out. Once again, Arbakor already jumping out onto the lead, into the lead of his pack. Anwar hot on his heels and Faisal right behind him as well. Again, it's going to be a 3-way battle at the start of this race. Quite a bit of weaving going on there, but it looks like the driver at the back wants to play it safe, not take a 3-wide approach, and Brandon's already warming up his tires, anticipating some chaos into this corner. No chaos, just a lot of smoke coming out of those tires, but it looks like Arbakar's lost his position, regained it through the exit of that right-hander. They make their way into Brussels right now. This is basically about the driver that can break the latest. Who's going to be brave enough to carry as much speed as possible through this corner. Once again, off-camber, you've got to be extremely careful. Let's go wide through no name. Looks like the positions haven't changed over the past few corners. Faisal still firmly planted in P2 with the yellow car of Anwar right behind him. That's right on board actually with Faisal, because he's got a bit on his hands right now. He's going to have to catch Arbakar and also defend from Anwar, who's right behind him. That gap is only 1 second, but remember, it is 1 second right now, but it can go down significantly by the end of the back straight. They're just going to have to make their way through these corners first. These corners are painful on cold tires. You're going to have to be so careful. Make sure you don't spin out the car. Make sure you don't take too much of those tires, or take too much life out of those tires, or demand too much from them in such temperatures. Especially if you're running a harder compound, which it looks like is the case for Faisal. You're going to have to wait a few laps to get those tires off the end. Making his way through Blanchemont right now. He's already dropping Anwar behind him and also dropping off through the leaders. 1 seconds between both pairs of cars as they make their way through the chicane for the first time in race number 2. This is also going to be a 5-lap race. A lot of brake lockups going on over there. More going on board as well as they make their way through the chicane. Everyone's gone through safely. Brendan's also caught up a bit. It's only 3 seconds. If he keeps it clean, he can catch up with the lead back in probably a lap's time, hopefully for his sake. Let's see what he does. Lockup from him this time. By perhaps he locked up a bit too much in the first lap. He's going a bit gingerly on the brakes this time. Seems to be helping him though. He's chopping down that gap by about a 10th through that corner, and that's certainly going to start dropping now if he just gets into that draft train. But here's the thing, if you lose out on the draft train early on in the race, you're going to start struggling, because the top 3 cars who are all within slipstream range of each other are going to start pulling away, and you won't have anything left in your back pocket to pull out. Nothing else for you to use, all the advantage for you to use to climb your way back up. But it looks like that's not really the case. All these drivers are starting to space out quite a bit. Arbakar again pulling off about a second already into this lap. That gap is slowly climbing as well. Yeah, he seems to be unbeatable today. He's just pulling away into 3.1 seconds. But I don't think the battle for P2 is over yet. P2, 3 and 4 all have a good chance of taking that position. This is basically that slightly boring part of the race. We're just going to have to wait for drivers to settle in. It's usually around lap 3 or lap 4 where the action really starts picking up. That's when drivers get a bit too comfortable. That's when you start seeing a few mistakes coming out. And that is precisely what some of the drivers will be hoping for looking at the cars up front. Bilsey deciding the track doesn't really suit him. He doesn't fancy the way it's laid out, decides to go straight on. I think he's just having fun at this point. Maybe he's gonna wait, slow down a bit, wait around, explore the track. It's probably that one odd case where you'd rather look at the scenery than drive on track. Honestly, you can actually make some good photographs, perhaps not during the race, but if you put the right mods and capabilities in the sim to do that, can have quite a lot of fun in that regard as well. So sim racing is not only about driving, do a lot of things with it. You can have fun making liveries. You can take some stunning photographs. Would also suggest to check out some more modern sims as well. There's a huge selection of sims out there, especially if you're new, to choose from. It can be a bit overwhelming at times, but we do recommend, start off with Assetto Corsa. It is easy to access. It's a good starting point for sure. And don't get me wrong, it's very competitive as well once you get to a higher level. But it's a really good place for you to start off and experiment with a lot of cars, especially if you're playing on PC. It's just textbook there. Everyone's spaced out by about the same amount, at least visually on track. Numbers say otherwise, but it's just one car coming out of Rouge after the other one, or rather Radion in this case. Yeah, looks like these gaps are not changing at all. The closest gap we have, the smallest gap we have, is Brandon on onward. That's just 1.2 seconds now between P3 and P4. It's probably a battle that's going to ensue very, very soon. Looking at the gap, it is going down. Perhaps we ride on board with Brandon. We'll be able to see what he can do. Is that the commentator's curse? I hope not. As soon as we pan onto him, he spins out. So he's going to have to chop down all of that gap, which he's been doing so for the past few laps. He's lost that all on one corner. He's going to have to start working for it once again. This is turned into a track day, it looks like, on the main straight. Billsy firmly planting his car onto that grid slot. Probably Fancy's just sitting there and doing another race start, perhaps getting ready for race 3. Unfortunately, we don't have a race 3 lined up here today, so we're gonna have to just wait. Billsy's just gonna have to accept that this is the last race for this evening at P5. Looks like the gap between Brandon and Unwers once again going down. Hopefully this battle really starts taking off in another lap's time, because that's literally all we're going to have, another 2 laps when you cross the line, this time by 2 laps left on this track to make an impact in this race. Abakar putting out the fastest laps at 2:20. That's about 3 seconds faster than his quali laps. Has really gotten those tires up to temp. Just proves that it takes about 2-3 laps at this point to really get the best performance out of the tires that you have fitted on your car. But that's Arbacor making his way through. It's a beautiful camera angle over there. It's quite a popular camera angle for a lot of photographers as well. They commonly go to that point at the bottom of the Radion hill, basically at Eau Rouge, take that photo. It's an interesting fact that Eau Rouge is actually the name of the stream that runs over at the bottom of that hill. That's why that point is called Eau Rouge. It's popularly, the entire sequence is actually known as Eau Rouge, but that's not actually the case. Eau Rouge is just that little section. Actually, it's mostly just that stream down there. It's actually the Radion complex. Radion primarily being that section on top of the hill. So it's something interesting. It's actually something which I learned recently about the fact that it's named after that little stream below there. But there's so many little intricate piece of information like this about these racetracks. It's always nice to read up on that. It gives you a different angle to enjoy in sim racing, different angle to enjoy in racing as well. It is about the cars, but it's also about the tracks. So it's like you can tackle the track perfectly. If you know the track inside out, you can go that small little tenth faster just to get a competitive advantage on your closest rival. The closest rival for Brandon is Anwar. The gap is now down 2 seconds. It was 3 seconds a few laps ago. Anwar having a massive lockup over there. Surely that gap is going to drop down now. It is by a tenth. It's gone back up. Anwar brilliantly holding on to that momentum in that car, just making sure he doesn't lose any time in the car behind. Yeah, this is about the last chance Brandon is going to have. If he can get onto the slipstream by the start of the main straight next time, or by the start of the Kemmel straight next time by, he will have a chance at the end of the lap. But chances are looking slim right now. He's still 1.8 seconds behind. starting up the final lap. Brendan chasing down Anwar. The only real battle that's taking place right now on track, and it looks like that gap is slowly going down as well. The gap is definitely becoming smaller. Let's ride on board with Brendan. I think it's going to be an exciting end to this race. If we ride on board with him to the end of the race, we'll be able to see if he can gain time on Anwar up front anywhere. Arbakor having a bit of an adventure on top of the hill over there at the end of the Camel Straight. It's almost like a technical issue there. Hopefully he continues moving. Faisal happily in P2. I think Arbakor is just kind of waiting for Faisal to come up at this point, just so that he can have a little bit of a battle at the end of this race. He's probably bored all out there on his own. Had enough of the scenery. He wants to have the last half of this lap as an actual race for his sake. But yeah, this is Brendan. He's definitely caught up quite a bit to Anwar. Anwar goes deep into Brussels, but then he carries that momentum through the rest of the corner. That's a very interesting line, but it somehow seemed to work there. Brendan once again now having to extend the track a little bit, carry a little bit more momentum than Anwar. Anwar seems to be doing really well in that regard, so Brendan's going to have to do just a little bit better to close that gap. Taking a tight line through Wuhan. Hasn't lost any time, but certainly hasn't gained any either. So he's running out of corners right now. If he doesn't want to finish at the tail end of the lead lap, then he's going to have to pull something out of the hat with just a few corners left right now. Something tells me this is going to be a dive bomb into the bus stop chicane. He's going to have to dive straight down into the chicane if he wants to take victory here. He wants to take the last spot of the podium over here. Let's jump back on board for this battle. If Anwar makes a mistake into that braking zone, this is going to be Brendan's podium. If not, he's gonna have to be proud of what he's done. He's chopped down 2.5 seconds in the span of 2 laps. Anwar's been holding on brilliantly. If he can take this podium finish, that's going to be a good way for him to end his evening. There we go. He takes that chicane reasonably well, goes through the final corner, and there we go. He takes P3. So it looks like Brendan is going to have to settle for P4. That's what you have. That's what you've got when you've got a 5-lap race at Spa. You don't have much time. You don't have many opportunities that you can afford to waste. That's just the way this race ends for Brendan. But those are your finishers. That's your finishing classification. Arbakor once again winning this race. Faisal in P2. I believe Faisal was P2 in the first race as well, if I'm not mistaken. Anwar in P3, Brendan P4. And Bilzi having a nice little excursion on track to sightseeing basically for as he finishes off the grid 1 lap down. So that was a little start, a little introduction to ILJA Esports Middle East. We hope to see more participation soon. If you're really interested in being a part of this, and you're from the Middle East region or you're racing from the Middle East region, be sure to check out the links in the description of the video. You can reach out to us, reach out to the ILJA Esports social media accounts through that link to get involved in this. Hopefully next week we have more people on the grid. Hopefully this inspired you to get involved into something that can grow into a big community. So on that note, thank you so much for watching. It's me, Sagar, that's signing off on behalf of ILJA Esports. We had Gaurav, we had Firoz as the race director. And we hope to see you next week. Have a great evening, everybody, and see you later.